What is going on, everyone? It is Matt and Greg here from Project Unbroken. So today is, kind of our first video we're shooting for Project Unbroken. We want to release to people, and we want to start by kind of talking about what's it like to be a heroin addict. Both of us have been heroin addicts. We're recovering we're recovered. He's been 10 years clean. I'm about 8 off heroin and about 5 off methadone, almost 5. So today we just want to kind of introduce people what it was like for us individually to be heroin addicts. So what would you say for you, like going into heroin, like what was it like when you first started doing heroin?
I'll say the whole experience, or the amount of time that I was on heroin, it was like the best time of my life and the worst time of my life, like just combined. It was like the highs are really high and the lows are really low, literally. But when I first got into it, it was a quick transition from pills to heroin, and then it's you become an everyday user. Yeah. So it starts to slowly overtake your life.
And we did pills for a couple of years where we came off the book, we kind of transitioned to heroin, and it was pretty quick steamroll there.
Yeah, pills were casual use. Heroin, it took over pretty quickly. And to be honest, at first, I really enjoyed it. And I think maybe that's the same for you. Greg and I were really good friends when we fell into our heroin addiction. And I had a lot of fun with it. I mean, I know we used to go out all the time, and heroin was definitely a social drug for me. It made me feel more at ease in social settings. I just really enjoyed it. But we would go out and, play pool and whatever, just have a really good time with it. And I felt great.
What's funny is most people probably listen to that and they're like, what? Like on heroin?
I know, yeah.
And they're thinking like nodding out, but you can also use it. It gets your endorphins flowing, makes you feel good.
Oh, yeah.
So,
and
pretty cool.
I used it in both settings, social and just, honestly, it gets to the point where it makes everything better. That's the problem.
Temporarily.
Yeah, temporarily. I mean, we were working at a job where we were up really early in the morning, and then you kind of get high early in the morning. You're like, well, this is awesome now. So then every time you get up early in the morning, if you're not high, it's going to suck. And that is how heroin puts its grips in you, it's because you don't want to do anything sober ever again.
So how long would you say it was enjoyable for you?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe like 2 years. It was a while. It was a long time. It was enjoyable most of the time, as far as I felt I didn't want to stop. But it adds a lot of stress to your life that I don't think you notice, because once you get high, it makes it okay again. And you do start to realize that your life is becoming less and less manageable. Heroin takes over everything that you try to do. It takes precedent over your finances, over your family, over your relationships. You will definitely steal from people you care about. You'll lie to people you love, but you don't see those things. There's heroin puts a big blinder over your eyes, and it's really hard to see what's going on. So I'll say, looking back, it probably became less enjoyable after things started to fall apart. We had a business together that kind of fell through our fingers, and we were like, what the hell happened? Toxic relationships, it's not very much fun, but while you're in it, you can't see that they're bad things. And again, when I basically, my family, my support system kind of called me out after I got caught. And then, after enough times, they were like, all right, this is over.
So once it wasn't fun anymore, how would you describe heroin addiction?
It's hell. I mean, you're stuck in a prison.
Yeah.
It's mentally, it's very, very difficult to deal with, because you're trying to find your way out of it, and you feel like shit, and the key to feeling better is right there.
And you can take it like that, right?
Yeah.
Immediate.
Yeah, it's immediate. So it becomes just you're going through hell.
And maybe to make people understand that, there's people out there who are smokers or, drink coffee every day, and they say, well, just go through the pain for a little bit. Well, try to stop drinking coffee, try to quit smoking. How many people can, right?
Oh, God.
And heroin is about 100 times worse
Yeah.
trying to quit. So it's the same thing as any other addiction. It's just very, very strong.
Yeah.
You have withdrawal symptoms that come along with it if you don't stop.
And then, I mean, you tack on top of that, like when you're talking about what it's like to be a heroin addict, it's like you're dealing with a lot of just internal stuff the whole time too. Like nobody's proud to be a heroin addict. Like you're dealing with shame, you're dealing with maybe not living in a way that lines up with the ethics or the moral code that maybe you were raised with. I know that was a big part of it, is just a daily struggle of like, man, I should not be living this way, but you're so deep in it, it's hard to get out.
Definitely.
There's a lot of things that are going on there. What about you? What do you, when you think back?
Yeah, pretty similar. When I first started, I actually remember thinking like, this is like, I'm gonna just do this forever. Because when I first started, when we were on pills and stuff, I had started like an online business, which I now have now, which is doing very well. But back then it did pretty good, and I had a good amount of money, so things were easy. I would even buy you stuff a lot of the times just because it was easy. It was easy. I had my best friend with me. We were kind of just having fun together, and we there was no struggle in it. I didn't have to go steal and all that stuff. So I remember thinking like, I'm just going to do this for like I can kind of work on my business and just function normally. Like I was somewhat functional. I'm just going to do this forever.
Yeah.
And I think that happened for about 6 months to a year, where it was fun for me. And then the money started running out, and things started getting a little harder. And for me, that's when I think it stopped being so much fun. Where I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I'm doing hair. Like, what am I doing? Because we talked about this before. I remember sitting in high school in a class, and people were they were talking about heroin addiction. I'm like, who does heroin? Like who does that? Who'd be that dumb to do heroin? And it caught us.
Next thing you know,
right? So I think that's important for people to understand is most heroin addicts or addicts in general don't really choose to be that. They kind of just find themselves caught in the situation. Same thing with with like a bad relationship. You don't really ever plan to get in a bad relationship. It kind of just happens.
Yeah.
It catches you off guard. So it was about a year in, I think, where I realized that what am I doing? This is not fun. The dealer we were getting it from, that's when he started maybe not getting it. Like he had more trouble getting it. I don't know what happened there. So I would start withdrawing more. Whereas the first years, like I pretty much always had it. Started losing friends. Started not hanging out with as many people. Started being more secluded. Stopped eating. Well, we'd stopped eating better when we were first taking heroin, but didn't work out at all. So my confidence was at all-time low. And you said shame. And I think it's when I realized what I was doing and I stopped and realized that it was shameful.
You don't feel good about yourself.
Shameful, yeah. So at about the year mark is where it took the turn, and then from there we made many attempts to try to quit. And I think as we got further along and more attempts at trying to quit, I think it got worse and worse because it was like, shit, like I'm stuck. I cannot get out of this thing. So like you said, about the first year or so, it was kind of fun. I was kind of enjoying it. And then it turned into hell, where I just couldn't get out.
Yeah, that's a terrible feeling. Because Greg and I made several attempts to quit, and there were a couple dynamics involved. We were messing with like real sketchy doctors that were, kind of subscribing maintenance programs, drugs to help people quit. But it was a complete ripoff. And there's, we'll go over that later. There's a lot of people that are preying on those who are trying to get out of their addiction for financial reasons and otherwise. And then it was just the fact that Greg and I were both in it. So one of us would try to quit, and the other one will be like, let's get high. And you're not going to say no. It's like, A, it's my best friend. B, like, getting high was awesome. Like,
especially when you feel like shit.
And you feel like shit.
Those opposite ends of the spectrum, you go from feeling absolutely horrible to feeling really good.
Yeah.
It's a big
like
pool.
that. Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about like the day-to-day. Like when we were caught up, do you remember what our like day-to-day was? You know what I mean?
Yeah, for the most part, 100%. I mean, we both held down jobs.
Yeah.
We were working together, so we were functional, but I would say 100% of my mental energy was going towards how are we going to get more heroin?
How much do I have left, and where is it going to come from next? And what if he doesn't have any more when we call him?
It's a bad feeling.
You know what I mean? So every day I think you're worrying about, how am I going to get it? Is he going to have enough? How long is this going to last? Am I going to go through withdrawal?
I'm talking that is 100% of what my brain, like my brain was on, thinking about heroin all day. like that. There was no room for like, you know, how can I improve my life? How can like nothing.
There's also like, how am I going to space them out? You know what I mean? So we would get a certain amount of bags and be like, well, okay, I have this many, so I can do this at this time. I can, you know, maybe 2 hours later I'll do this many. So it's also managing, you know, how much you're going to do throughout the day.
Yeah, almost scheduled out. Be like, I'll do one at 1 p.m.,
Right.
one at 3 p.m., one at. It's exhausting, and you know, again, we're talking about the business that Greg and I lost because of our addiction. I remember there was a mutual acquaintance that we used to get high with, who said early on, he was like, you'll see, like, everything falls through your fingers. Like, you'll think you'll be focused on something, but if you're addicted to heroin or whatever, like, everything else takes a backseat.
Yeah.
Somehow, even if you think you're paying it the attention you need to pay, it just doesn't work, and you're so focused on your addiction, nothing else stands a chance.
Yeah.
Relationships, everything, it doesn't matter. Everything takes a backseat.
Absolutely.
So it was absolutely exhausting. Day to day, not fun. Now that you bring that up, it was less fun a lot earlier than I said earlier. Yeah.
I think it was about 6 months to a year where we were both kind of like, dude, what are we doing?
I'm thinking of like the feeling of getting high, but when you're talking about the day to day, like, not to mention, like, we would work all day, and then it's like, well, let's go try to get this heroin.
Right.
And then, you know, I did not, like, you started doing better financially back then. I wasn't, so I was like scrambling.
Right.
Like, fuck, I need to get another bundle. Like, where am I going to come up with $100?
Yeah.
It sucks. Oh.
So that's a little bit about what we kind of experienced, I think, like being a heroin addict. You know, we have a lot of topics coming as far as, you know, anything from like side effects to, you know, parents or loved ones, what to look for, what we would have done to, you know, get out of it quicker. You know, just all different topics across the board on addiction and related topics.
Yeah, things that have helped us find recovery, things that roadblocks, things that set us back. And hopefully, I mean, you know, especially now, this is about 10 years later, since my last run-in with heroin, it's gotten a lot worse. You know, it's an epidemic. It's touching all communities in America. Hopefully, our experiences can help give a little bit of insight to somebody that's going through it, or, you know, if people out there have loved ones going through it, just to kind of see, like, what is this all about?
Yeah.
We don't claim to have all the answers, but again, maybe from our experiences, somebody can, you know, see that there is hope. You can get through this. You can live a happy, successful life after heroin addiction. So that's kind of what our goal is for Project Unbroken.
Yeah, we're going to be sharing all of our experiences all the way before, into addiction, through addiction, out of addiction, and you know, where we are now, which is both pretty successful in family and life and all that stuff. So if you guys have any specific questions on any topics, let us know. We already have a bunch of videos. I want you guys to ask questions so we know exactly different types of questions to answer, where we can go into depth into whatever you want to know about.
Well, thanks for watching, guys. Again, you can check us out at www.projectunbroken.com. Find out a little bit more of our story there, and we'll look forward to talking to you soon.
All right, have a good one, everyone.